My name is Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Carlo, the infamous son-in-law from The Godfather. I'm now known as the Hollywood Godfather, and this is my story.
Before all of the wins in my portfolio, I was a little boy diagnosed with polio. Experimenting with cures, I tried every one. Felt everything in my right, but my left was numb. Walking with a limp, like will I ever run? Once again, or is this it? Am I forever done? Living in the hospital was never fun. Some people were cool, but not everyone.
Welcome, everybody. It's time for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. And tonight, I am so happy, after so many years, this gentleman is a legend in his own right in so many ways. But I met him when he just finished photography school.
Oh, wow.
And he did my first portfolio as a model. And we went to Moravian Cemetery on Staten Island. Let me introduce Jeannie, first of all. Raymond, our co-host.
Hello. I'm so excited.
Now, the legend himself finally got him on the show. Vito Picone of the Elegance.
I don't know about that legend situation, but I'll take it.
Hello. Were you kidding me or what?
How you doing, G?
Doing great. And you're all over the place, show-wise. I mean,
yeah, we've been busy. I mean, it amazes me sometimes, you know, how it just keeps going on and on. It's 67 years since our recording of Little Star.
wow.
67 years. And I just wanted to correct you because you said we met when I was going to photography school. Okay. I was already in my early 20s, so I knew you 10 years before that.
Oh, I knew you knew me. I'm sorry. I didn't get that right.
Right.
We knew every PS 39. Forget about it.
There you go.
How about what was that guy in the corner down there? Trio Club.
Oh yeah.
and Crescido's across the street.
There you go. Crescido's.
Joe Baker.
Everybody worked in Crescido's.
How about Joe Baker? Forget about
Joe Baker down the street. Yep.
No.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so many memories. A lot of those places are gone. Some of the places now, the community, which used to be 1,000% Italian, now it's probably 80% Russian.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of Russians down there. So wow. It's, and then where the swamp was, where we had all the swamps, where we used to go get our punks so we could light the fireworks.
Yeah.
That they put all houses in there. There's got to be about 150 houses in there, in the swamp. Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
South Beach was the place. And not only that, we even missed the earlier part of the beach when it was bigger than Coney Island.
With the rides and all, yeah.
Hotels were there, big hotels, dance halls. I've been seeing somebody just been posting a lot of old photos on Facebook. I'm amazed that even though I didn't see it. When I was 12 years old, my cousin used to live on Mott Street downtown, and he had the balloon stand with the darts.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So he asked me, he got me a job. He said, I want you to work for me. I want you to blow up the balloons. So I used to blow the balloons every once in a while. Yeah, every once in a while. He come in. One day he walked in, he slapped me in the back of the head. He said, listen to me. When you blow up the balloons, stretch them first because you're making them too hard. And I want the darts to bounce off the balloons. I don't want it to break the balloons.
Right.
Costing me too many Cupid dolls, he said.
Oh, my.
That's wild, man. Jeannie, you have no idea of what him and I are talking about. This is like the days of Aragot.
Well, it's fabulous. There's nothing better than old friends that you've got so much history together. I love that. And growing up together and all the different things that you guys have experienced. And I love these stories. So I'm very excited to have you on here. So.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
But I mean, you, and I say legend, and you are a legend to me because you inspired me to get into this business.
Well,
when I saw a guy from the neighborhood create the song, Where Are You, Little Star? And it's still going on and on and on and on. I can mention your name anywhere. Everybody knows you, which is fabulous.
I hope I don't owe them money.
Well, believe me, if you did, they'd be at your front door.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Unfortunately, Buster Poindexter just passed away. His real name was David Johansson. He created the New York Dolls and the first punk rock group, but he was a Staten Islander. And we were talking.
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, and we were talking one day, and he said if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even be in this business. He said because there was a magazine called the Staten Islander, and they had a contest, win a date with the Elegants, and they were gonna pick you up with a limo. We had 5 girls, and they were going to take us to wherever they were going to take us. We were too young to go to the Copa or anything like that. We were only 16, 17 years old. And he said, that's all I seen was that you were going to win a date, and I knew I wanted to be a singer, so I could maybe get a date one day.
That's wild.
So that was, so he reminded me of the same thing,
Yeah.
It amazes me.
I mean, you really,
small island.
For us, you were like the star. That was it. And
I'm hearing things now that are amazing me, and I really don't believe what has happened all these years, because I took it for granted. Everybody else, when I made the record, all I wanted to do was go back and go to play softball at PS39 in the field. I wasn't thinking about traveling, but then again, I traveled. I was with Buddy Holly for like 60 days, and we were together right before his plane crash. That was, matter of fact, they keep inviting us back to the Cirque Ballroom as an anniversary thing for the anniversary of the, of that plane crash.
Right.
And those kind of things. We just found out about 5 years ago that Gene Roddenberry, the guy that created Star Trek, he said that he was writing for TV series Have Gun Will Travel, and he was writing for Wagon Train. He says, and he heard the radio one day, heard me say, "Where are you, little star?" And that gave him the inspiration to create Star Trek. And he was going to start searching space, for these stars and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it just boggles my mind. I still can't get into that thing, So Tony Orlando told me the other day, he just got the Frank Sinatra Award, and I congratulated him at the PNC Arts Center here in Jersey. And on the stage, he said to me, he said, "You were the lead horse." He said, "You were the lead horse. We were just the horses following you." He said, "You set the trail." And I laughed at him, and in the car going home, I said, "Wait a minute, I was like 5 years, 6 years before him. Maybe he's telling the truth. Who knows?"
Tony Orlando's such a nice guy. I've had the pleasure of being in his company. What a really nice man.
Absolute regular, totally regular guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song, I remember that, Tie a Yellow Ribbon. I mean, that was a big, big deal when I remember listening to that. That's awesome. Well, that song that you had, Little Star, now you guys wrote it, is that right? Did you write the song?
Yeah, I wrote it with one of the other members of the group. There were 2 of them. I'm sorry? What was that, Jeannie?
I was just saying
I didn't hear what you said, Jeannie.
I just said it's amazing you guys wrote this big hit at such a young age, 16 years old.
Well, if you go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we have an exhibit there in the Hall of Fame since the day it opened, and there's a section there with the Doo-Wop section, and the particular display they have is a photo of us. Little Star is there, and a quote from me. And the quote was simple. It was a question asked. It was, how did you first, come up with the song? And the truth was, we used to, and Johnny remembers Pat Crescito, Patricia.
Oh, yeah, sure.
She was a first lead singer. I had a group before the Elegants when I was 14 years old. And we used to rehearse in her house on Sand Lane. And one day we were rehearsing, and it got to be really late, almost 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we started getting tired. We started getting silly and stupid. So we started doing Mary Had a Little Lamb and Little Jack Horner, and so on and so forth. And then we did, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then we looked at each other, and, 2 of us said, that's got a little hook that we could possibly do something with. Let's go home. We'll do something tomorrow. So we went home, And the next day, Artie Venosa, who was the first tenor in the group, we got together. Within 20 minutes, we wrote Little Star.
Oh, wow.
And then all that ad-libbing I did, the whoa, whoa, whoas, we added that. And, and next thing I know it, we started winning contests at all the local dances with that song. Remember St. Anne's Dance, G?
Oh, my God, Friday nights.
Dungan Hills. Dungan Hills, that's it. Well, there we won a contest there, and it was a record contract, and we went, and of course it was a scam, and we signed with them, and we had a record out. Yeah, it was one of those deals. The only thing we got out of that we got out of that contract because the guy that owned the record company wound up getting shot and killed in the Lower East Side, and all of a sudden we were, we were available. That was it. So we started knocking.
That's the way business was done then.
Well, that's it. There was no handshake. There was just a, open fire. That was it. But we started knocking on the doors on the Brill building and things, and then we live auditioned.
The Brill building.
One particular label like this.
That's a legendary building. That created more stars. The Brill building. Nobody even knows about it.
No, any floor had maybe 10 offices on every floor. Every one of those had somebody who became some kind of superstar somewhere along the line.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a microphone behind me that I had an office on 1650 Broadway for about 28 years. I had a booking agency there. And one day I needed more room, and I asked the super, if there's a small room, I'll take it, no matter where it is in the building. I need it for storage. So he called me about a week later. So we got an office that just emptied out. Come and take a look at it. So I go to look at it, and it's empty. And when I got there, the door's open, and he's got this microphone as a doorstop, a big microphone. Now I said, well, what are you doing with this thing? He said, we use it to keep the door open. I said, I want this microphone. He said, you take it. He said, take it. That microphone, the whole second floor was Irving Berlin, had the whole second floor. That microphone was probably used by Frank Sinatra, and God knows who else used that microphone. Wow. I have it here in my music room now.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That song, when someone's going to come on the show, I do a little bit of stalking so I can, check you out. Yeah. So that song was in the #1 spot. Was it 19 weeks?
1958. Yep, we were there, and the people we held out of that spot still amazes me, because don't forget, rock and roll was in its infancy,
right?
And now the big bands and the pop singers were still very, very prevalent. Right. So what happened was, we beat and kept out of first place, out of the first place there, Nat King Cole, Perry Como, Dean Martin. These people could not knock us out of the box. The only guy that knocked us out of the box, unfortunately, was another Sicilian, was a guy by the name of Domenico Modugno.
Oh, Maron.
He had the song Volare, Nel Blu de
forget about it.
And he knocked us out of the #1 spot. So if I got to get knocked out of a spot, I'd rather it be another Sicilian.
Oh, yeah. And plus, look who he was. I mean, worldwide.
That's it.
That's incredible. I don't know the age difference between, was it Bobby Barron and that did Splish Splash? Yeah.
Bobby Darin, actually, his family, they're from the Bronx. His family had a summer bungalow in South Beach, where Louie and I were from.
Oh, that's wow.
And he would come every summer and spend it on the boardwalk with us. So, but he was 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years older than me. But the common denominator we had was we both were singing. We both wanted to get in this business, and we used to talk about it all the time. Coincidence, as it turned out, a couple of years later, 1958, he had Splish Splash on the charts, #3, I think it was, and we had #1 with Little Star, and even Johnny Maestro trailed along. Johnny's family had a bungalow in Midland Beach, which was the adjoining beach, and he would come for the summers down there, and he'd walk down the beach. He was afraid to come to our neighborhood, so I had to walk the whole length of the boardwalk to meet him, and then walk him back to South Beach. So
that's funny.
Yeah, but we would talk about it, and all three of us wound up in the top 10 at one point. You know?
That's incredible. Wild. That's incredible. That made it to a gold record, right?
Yeah, we got our gold record in 1958 when it hit the first million, and then it just continued from that point on with all the compilations and everything. I think the estimate now is close to 4 million with everything. Everything done. We have an award too. I got it here too in my music room. It's called a Millionaires Award, and it's given to you by BMI, which is the music company, and they give it to you for the amount of airplays that you've accomplished. And if you did 1 million or more record plays, you got this Millionaires Award, which obviously not the word millionaire. Yeah, that's a play on words, but it's good.
Right.
Yeah, and that was early. So since that time, we probably tripled that too.
Oh,
I just told Cousin Brucey that the other day. You know, we were talking about that on stage, and I told him I have no recollection of, or no way of knowing what the total amount is, but I know that we got the Millionaires Award 7-8 years ago. And, you know, wow. So you know, it's been played definitely before since then. You know, so.
Talking about a career, look at Cousin Brucey's career. My goodness, my God, it just keeps going.
No, you know,
Cousin Brucey's one of the big DJs. I don't know how many decades already.
Yeah. We, you know, he's a phenomenon. He still loves everything he does. Hey. That's the way he talks.
But you know, it's when and talking now that we're mature, not old but mature. Yeah. Who wants to give it up? You know, I'm going on a tour now, and I end in Dublin, January 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
I can't believe people even want to hear me.
I think my audience can hear me. I think that's the problem. You know, they're in their 90s and their 80s already. I mean, we don't even have valet parking when we work there. They park the walkers.
Hello.
You know? Oh my God. Yeah. Hey, I was listening to you singing somewhere, and I could hear some young girl just screaming to you.
Oh my God! Wow, they might have been sitting on something.
No, it was funny, but what fun music to listen to, you know.
I just listened to a CD that somebody made. They recorded it illegally from the seats. I can't say illegally because you couldn't go to jail, but you were not supposed to record anything at Radio City Music Hall. We did Radio City 4 or 5 times. And this particular song I did was a Benny King song called I Who Have Nothing. And I think it was probably my best live performance ever. And that's my own personal feelings. But we got a 3-minute standing ovation at Radio City Music Hall. And you could hear the people screaming at the back at the end of this CD. I still get, my hair still stands on end in the back of my neck. You know?
What was the name of the song again? You said
I Who Have Nothing.
I Who Have Nothing.
By Benny King. Yeah, by Benny King.
That's a great tune, too.
Oh, yeah. I actually did the eulogy for Benny King when he passed away. We were pretty close. We played golf together, and, you know, there was a big loss. Yeah.
So Gianni said it's fascinating about your musical career, especially starting at such a young age, because you guys were the first boy band.
Yeah. We were the first. We were actually the second boy band, quote unquote, especially white boy band, because of course, you know, what the industry was at that time was all 99% African American.
Right.
We were the second group to have a #1 record charted on the radio. The only one that beat us was At the Hop by Danny and the Juniors, and this was actually the fall of '57. They crossed over into '58, and it fell off the charts in January. And then the summer of '58, we just blew the lid off it, and then we became the second white on white boy group to have that privilege, that honor. Yeah.
I'll say that's incredible. Yeah. So, as I was looking into you, it said you play a couple of instruments. Your father was a guitar player, and you wanted to play a bunch of different things, and you told them what you wanted, and they brought you something completely different.
Well, that's exactly what happened. Matter of fact, Louis' sister, Gianni's sister.
Yeah.
You know, I think she played the clarinet, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
Yeah.
She was in the PS-39 band,
Yeah.
like we all were. And we were waiting. The Board of Education put together a program, music program. And here we are waiting like crazy for the, when they asked us what we wanted to play. I said, I want a guitar, I want a saxophone, or a drum, because I want to be a rock and roll musician. So the windup was the truck comes 3-4 weeks later, and they pass out the instruments. And they give me this case that looked like a coffin. I said, what the hell is this, And I opened it up, and I see a trombone. I said, well, I said, I got the wrong instrument here. They said, no, you're going to play the trombone because you were the tallest kid in the class, and you could reach the last position with the slide. So, I mean, I hated that thing. I hated that trombone. I mean, what would I be, like a Dixieland player? I didn't want that. I mean, what time in your life do you ever see a beautiful girl in a club walk up and say, I think I'm going to go date that trombone player? That ain't happening, So,
it worked out.
Jeannie, I really appreciate all this research you did.
Hey, I'm a good doctor, Gianni.
Well, you're telling me things. I know this guy all my life. I just feel like I met him.
I love it. No, it's so fun to listen to. I watched, also watched Let the Good Times Roll.
Okay.
That you were doing, and I thought, that looked like a lot of fun, and I love that you had those people get up and dance.
Yeah.
Everybody was dancers, and that was the big night out. Now you don't dare go out to a club; you're gonna get knifed.
So 32 years ago, I created that show. I wanted to do it on cable here on Staten Island cable. I wanted to recreate American Bandstand, but for the age group that we are now.
Right.
And don't forget, the people you're seeing dancing, when I did this, they were 30 years younger when they started. Now the fact that I'm doing this podcast, I now have a gun to Gianni's head. Now he's got to do my TV show.
I will definitely do it. Are you kidding?
Awesome.
He was scheduled twice already, and both times there was a conflict, with what he had to do, and I understand it because it happens to me all the time. But we're definitely going to Shanghai him into it. We got to find out where he goes and buys his bologna. We're going to hit him on the head, put him in the car, and take him here.
Well, I love that you have the people that love that music when you guys were young, actually doing the dancing. I just thought, I was so jealous. I thought that looked like so much fun.
No, the guests that I had on that show over the years, I had everybody from Tiny Tim to Johnny Maestro on the Brooklyn Bridge. Every act that's in the business has been on that show one way or another, one time or another.
Is that your TV show you're talking about?
It's the TV show, yeah.
Wow. When do you do it?
We tape it the fourth Monday of the month, and then it airs 2-3 days later, and then you could YouTube it, or it's streamed now. That's a new thing. I don't know what streaming is. To me, streaming is when you want to go fly fishing or something.
Yeah.
But you now can see it on YouTube, or you can stream it.
What's the name of the show?
Let the Good Times Roll.
Let the Good Times Roll. Yeah. Great title.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's do a quick commercial, and then I want to ask you another question about your show, because I loved it.
Beautiful. All right.
Please, we'll be right back. In fact, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm going to do the commercial myself. We have 2 shows coming up, and I know one of them is in Knoxville, believe it or not. I'll be in Knoxville at Fanboy Expo in Knoxville on the 11th through the 12th. Come by. I got all kinds of memorabilia. Want to see you all. And then on June 25th, that's coming up before that, obviously, I'm at Villa Napolitano, and that's the phone number, 413-732-933, and I'll be there. It's going to be a great night. June 25th. The food is amazing. I sell out every time. Make your reservations now, please. And now let's go back to my friend Vito Picone here. What are we doing here? Let the good times roll.
I love it. Well, it's such a great show, and I thought it was so funny. And you have a segment on your show called Pet Peeves.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought, oh boy, you're brave. I loved it. I loved it. I have one of those pet peeve sessions about 5 times a day when I'm moaning and groaning. Tell
me what it is. I'll put it on the air.
No. I got a long list, but But yeah, I thought it was so funny, and I thought it's just a fun show. I loved watching it, and I love, you do different things on there, and I thought, boy, I'm going to introduce my mom to it. But I look at you two, and you guys have had a career and been so busy. And I know Gianni, I don't know about you, Vito, but it sounds like you're as busy as you've ever been.
Oh, he has. That's all. He's on the road every weekend.
Yeah, we're busy. We're busier now than I was when we had the record.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Well,
We talking about me or my career or anything like that, and the fact that and I appreciate John said Johnny said that I inspired him, but one of my proudest moments was when he was in the movie The Godfather. I was so proud of him; it was unbelievable. It was a reverse situation. Now I see a guy from the neighborhood who's reached that pinnacle. I wasn't into movies. I got called later on into Goodfellas and stuff like that. But the bottom line was that to be in a movie was incredible. And he did such a great job with us. Of course, he was a bad guy. I mean, everybody hated him. I would
that's
have
the only reason they remember me, because I'm bad.
I would have rather see you ride away on a white horse or something. But I said they're giving him a beat, and I wanted to jump in the screen and help you.
No, my buddy.
Thank you. I really appreciate that coming from you. No, he was the inspiration to the whole Staten Island. When he made it, he gave us a beginning, because we're all from South Beach, we're all from nowhere, and he made it, and and stayed there, and
Yeah.
he's still there. So.
There's a kid. His real name is Carmine Granito, and somewhere along the line he changed his name to Ron Dante. Now Ronnie was 12, 13 years old. His father was a presser in a dress factory, who one of my guys, and he told this friend, one of my guys, "You think you could teach him how to play guitar? A couple of chords he wants to play." So at 12 years old, he took him to our rehearsal. The kid got hooked on music like you couldn't believe. I took him to my recording session after that. We sang at his prom when he was 13 years old. And there's a picture on my fan page. It's the Vito Picone and the Elegance fan page. You could see us there with this little 13-year-old kid. Well, that kid turned out years later to produce all Barry Manilow's hits.
Wow.
He not only produced all his hits, he sang on most of them. He then went on to put Ain't Misbehavin' on Broadway, Children with a Lesser God on Broadway. Then he had 2 hit records on the charts at the same time. He had Sugar Sugar by the Archies. He was the Archies, all the voices. And then he did Tracy by the Cufflinks. That was him. That was his record too. Both of them in the top 10 at the same time. This kid came from our rehearsal studio, our basement of our house, into a gigantic superstar. And
that's got to be such an inspiration for you.
He still says it. If it wasn't for the Elegance, I would not be in this business.
I say the same thing.
Oh man.
No, he coming from South Beach. I mean, I don't want to say it was depressed. It was undressed depressed.
No.
We didn't know the difference.
No, absolutely.
And we made the best of it and did it.
That is so incredible. I just keep thinking 16 years old. I look at even Gianni's life as a young kid.
Yeah.
And some young kids right now can't find their way home.
No.
And even when I'm no spring chicken, but I look back at what the stuff I did as a kid, and I look at these kids now that can't do anything. No. They might be brilliant on a gaming device or different.
On a laptop, they don't know anything. They don't leave the house.
Right.
They don't know how to correspond. Nothing.
Right. And I look at you and I'm thinking, 16-year-old kid, was your parents nervous? You running all around, or did they chaperone you? Or
no, we were 5 Italian kids from the neighborhood, and what happened was, as it turned out, there was only one of us that had both parents. My father died at 30 years old of a kidney disorder. The other fellas all were single parents they had, whose father died here and whose mother died there, and only one of the fellows had both mother and father. So it was very difficult for them to let go of their children and put them on a road where God knows where they were going to be. You know, there was no thought of drugs or anything like that. That didn't even enter the picture. Nobody thought about that. It was just a safety factor. Going to be away from home. The umbilical cord only goes so far, you know. Yeah. So, you know, but you know, the photos and my mother passed away at 99 years old. A few years ago. And I was going through some stuff and I found letters that I wrote that I sent her from the road. And you know, so all those things were just to keep in touch, to let her know that everything was fine, you know. But you know, it was amazing. It was amazing. And of course, the pride that they had when, you know, their kids were the #1 record in the world, not in the country. You know, we had #1.
I mean, that's a phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, I got people now in Germany and Italy and France and Spain. You know, they wanted me to go to Spain a couple of times. They wanted me to go to Italy. We canceled a concert in Abruzzi in Italy. It was during the COVID, you know, and obviously that was all down the drain. But you know, and now I don't think I want to be traveling that. I mean, not that distance and everything. You know, when you reach a certain age, you have all kinds of minor ailments, and you don't want those things to be major ailments when you're on the road.
Hello.
Yeah, I want my own doctors, my own hospital. I want everything right here. You know? So, yeah.
But I don't think you're going anywhere too soon. I mean, just to work around here.
Oh yeah.
All these Doo-Wop shows.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in a tri-state area, you could stay busy if you forget about it.
There's a cruise. We do this cruise now. We're going to be doing it in November again. It's called the Mold Shop Memory Cruise. They got like 20 acts on the show, and it's a pretty expensive tour. The whole ship is all full of people that come from all over the world to go to this cruise. Now, on the show with me on that particular cruise, just to name a couple of people that have done it or doing it, Paul Anka's going to do it.
Wow.
The Beach Boys, the Four Tops, the Temptations, Frankie Avalon. I can sit here all day long and give you
the top acts.
Yeah, like I can give you 50 or 60 more names, and they're all on this cruise at one point or another. Now, and they sell out within not even a month that they put the advertisement up. It's totally sold out.
I'll bet.
And where does the cruise go?
It'll go to the some of them go to the Mexican Riviera, you know, or you know, the Caribbean.
They're different. There's different cruises you can get on.
Yeah, this is one in particular. There's another one I used to do it every February. That used to leave out of Cape Canaveral, and that would be the same thing. Either one year was Mexican Riviera. We go to Cozumel and so on and so forth. The other one was we'd go to Haiti, and Haiti they actually stopped Haiti because of the political situation. But we would go to all of the St. Thomas, St. Croix,
That's a nice trip too.
You know what? We're on the ship for 8 days. We sing one show. No,
that's it.
I got 7.5 days of vacation.
Wow, and seeing old friends. That sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah. And the common denominator is the music. Everybody on the ship knows every song you're singing. They can sing every word to every song. They're very, very, very into, you know, the relationships and getting to know the acts themselves. And we make ourselves pretty available. You know, some of the acts sometimes they lock themselves in the cabin. You know, they don't want to bother with with people. Very private and stuff. We're out there. We sit there all day long, and we got people hanging out with us all day, night.
Which is so much better. It passes the time too.
Of course.
I've been on some of those trips with the arrogant ones that don't want to.
Yeah.
Why? I don't want to meet these people. You should have become a monk. Go into the
that's it. I'll never understand that. I won't understand.
I never could.
One guy wouldn't leave the cabin. One guy wouldn't leave the cabin. And, you know, there's a maritime law. You got to follow the maritime laws. You had to come out of the cabin, and you had to go stand outside, and they put the vest on you.
Oh, yeah, they got to do the whole.
You got to do the
drills and all that.
Got to do it. He locked himself in the cabin, and he decided he wasn't going to go. And while we're all standing out there with vests on, I see two custom agents took him out in cuffs. He had a robe on, and they cuffed him and took him out of the cabin. You know, there's certain things you got to abide by. You got to do these things. You know.
No, crazy.
Yeah.
So, what's your biggest thing coming up now? People
we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be doing that Mold Shop cruise. we do the Eisenhower Park in Long Island, and that thing is incredible. That thing is.
What's the dates though? These guys.
You would ask me these questions. I think that's July. That'll be in July. That one pulls about between 8,000 and 10,000 people out in that park.
Do you have a website that they can go to?
Yeah, that's the best. The best thing is to go to theelegance.net. That'll give you everything that we're doing, and pretty much our whole schedule. We took a couple of weeks off in the next couple of weeks just so we can regroup and add some new material and tighten up a little bit, and then we're going to kick it again. Remember, I don't know, you were doing your thing, so I'm sure you didn't remember this, but my 35th anniversary of Little Star, I wanted to do it where we started the group, and that was on the boardwalk on the bottom of Sand Lane, right by Sand Lane. So the borough president wouldn't allow me to do it there. I don't want you to do it there. We're going to do it at Silver Lake. We're going to do it here. We fought left and right. He said, if you want to do it there, you got to do it by yourself. I mean, he wasn't threatening me. I could do it by myself. I didn't need him. I got everybody in the neighborhood to pitch in. I had construction guys make us this. I had Cody Brothers with the trucking company. Gave me a 40-foot flatboard trailer. We made a stage out of it. Well, we were thinking we were going to pull 600-700 people. According to the Advance, which was the Staten Island newspaper, we did 20,000 people that night. 20,000. Wow. They had to close Capodanno Boulevard, which used to be Seaside Boulevard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, nobody out there knows what Capodanno is.
That's it. Yeah, Father Capodanno.
I think it's a mafia guy from Sicily.
Yeah, right.
Capodanno.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Capo. Yeah, Capo.
Let me ask you a question. Did you make any money from that? Or it was just a gift?
We lucked out. We really lucked out. If you speak to 90% of the acts that had records in that era, they all got beat. They all signed with independent labels, and every one of them pocketed the money. We did sign with a small independent, and it was a very small label. They had 3 or 4 of the black acts signed to them that had regional hits. But when this woman who owned the company, when she heard Little Star, she realized she had something bigger that she couldn't distribute it to reach the areas that she thought this would work. So she moved over and she signed us. She actually sublet us to ABC Paramount.
Wow.
Once we locked into ABC Paramount, we were now with a major label, and we got our money. We got our checks. We got our money regularly. And then from there, we signed with United Artists. I had Don Costa. Don Costa arranged 4 or 5 of my songs, and he was Sinatra's arranger. And
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's why it's always nice to hear the positives. Because most of you groups got ripped off.
They all, 99% of them. Yeah.
They didn't get paid.
That's terrible.
Well, you had 16 and 15-year-old kids dying to hear their record on the radio. They couldn't care about money.
They didn't
care.
They
hear their record. They wanted to be kings.
They're living at home. They just want to be on the radio.
Well, can you imagine? You would have been the prime target to swindle from. That's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And we went to a lawyer with our contract. The lawyer was on Sand Lane. He had a little office. It was so small. You know the old expression, you had to go outside to change your mind. But when you opened the door, he even had a desk there for another guy from the neighborhood who was an insurance guy. And when you opened the door, it would hit his desk, But each one of those guys, one of the lawyers became a civil a judge, and the other one became a Supreme Court justice. We had Wally San Giorgio, Pat Divineri. Those guys became, very powerful in the legal world. And then the 40s had the insurance company, and they were all thrown in there. But we brought the contracts to them. They scrutinized it. They checked off a lot of stuff that they didn't like, and the record company bought it. They took it and they said, "Okay, let's do it." So they probably saved a lot of aggravation from our standpoint.
Oh, I can imagine, yeah.
When you went to Giant, you said you went to what was the recording company? Artists?
ABC, Paramount, and United Artists.
United Artists. Those are huge names.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something else with United Artists. I got a call to go in to see Don Costa, who was God in the business.
Yeah.
And he said, "I want you to do a song we're going to be doing a movie with Kirk Douglas, and I want you to do the song for the soundtrack, for the lead, for the title song. And he played the song for me, and I said, no, all right, I'll take it home. I'll work on it. He said, however, you have to leave the group. I said, excuse me? He said, no, I just need you. I don't need the group. You have to do it alone. I said, Don, I can't do that, Don. I said, we did this together. It's not going to happen. He said, don't turn this down. You're making a big mistake. I said, I have to turn it down. And I walked away from him.
Well, that's who you are.
He gave the song to a young kid, and the song wound up being Town Without Pity.
Wow.
By Gene Pitney. So Gene Pitney did the recording for it, and then he asked us to do another one with the group, a song called "Because They're Young," which was a Dick Clark production, and we did the vocal on it. And Dwayne Eddy, who had the hit record with that twangy guitar, Rebel Rouser, and then he did Peter Gunn. He was the guitar player on Peter Gunn, and a very, very close friend of mine. And then he did the Magnificent Seven with Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner and all those guys. Wow. He did that whole soundtrack.
They're big soundtracks.
Yeah. So they gave it to him, and it had that that same feel as the Magnificent Seven. So they went with the instrumental instead of us. But it was good. It was good. I mean, I got the chance during my lifetime to meet so many different people. I'm in my music room. I'm looking at a picture right now that Frank Sinatra autographed for me. Giving one to my pal Vito about 1980. He was doing a movie called The First Deadly Sin, and he was doing it. He was doing it in New York. And I got pretty close with Elliot Kastner, the guy that was his director.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, and Elliot and I became close, and Elliot invited me to have dinner with Frank Sinatra, and I had to meet them at the hotel what the heck was the name of the hotel? I can't think of it, but he had the whole 17th floor, the Sherry Netherlands. Sherry Netherlands, yeah. Yeah, and he had the whole 17th floor. I got there, and when I was waiting in the living room for him to get ready, I seen a crystal ashtray come flying across the room, broke against the wall, and I heard him cursing and screaming.
He used to bounce the ashtrays off his ex-wives.
Oh man, he said, if I don't get another $1 million in that budget, I'm not doing the movie. I want to do this. And then, at that time, a movie, $7 million, whatever it was.
Hello.
A lot of money. So Elliot came out. He said, look, go to Patsy's. There's a table there. We have a table. We'll meet you there. He said, right now, I got to calm him down.
56th Street.
Yeah, that's it. I went
remember that dining room.
Oh, yeah. I met two of the guys that were supposed to have dinner with us. One was a guy named Charlie. He looked like he couldn't even breathe. He was an older guy. I shook his hand. It was like a bacala holding his hand, And then it wound up with Charles Revson, the owner of Revlon.
Yeah.
And that's so I met him. I met Sinatra's lawyer, and P.S. Sinatra never showed up. I got an apology, and I got a box seat at his Carnegie Hall concert. And he said, he would like to have me as a guest.
Was that Mickey Rudin at the time, his lawyer?
1980, yeah, Rudin, yeah.
Mickey Rudin, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I had a box seat. I was right next to Barbara Marx's wife. We sat together, and
he wound up throwing her off the balcony.
Yeah. And then he autographed the 8x10, and I wound up with that. And I tell you, I had four people in my box seat. I took Angelo Celli, who had the lawyer there, Celli and Bush on Newt Up Lane.
Yeah, I know him well, yeah.
Angelo was a big Sinatra fan. So I took him and his then wife, his former wife, and mine and my former wife, who'd both been divorced. And we wound up at the box at Carnegie Hall, watching Sinatra. And, so.
No, the perks are sometimes better than the money we make.
Oh, I enjoy not only the perks. I could do the concert and I could walk away, be very happy if I do a good job. But I look forward to the backstage stuff. I like the camaraderie backstage. I like hanging with the guys and talking about exactly what we're doing right now. Things that nobody ever knew. Like, I'll tell you one of your stories. Okay, we're in the Club Trio on Sand Lane.
All right.
And this Rolls Royce pulls up, and a Japanese girl comes out with a micro mini skirt and opens the door. And who comes out of the car? You.
She was my driver.
We were hysterical laughing. We were rolling on the floor.
Well, I was always trying to go to the next step.
Oh, I do I know that? who had a leopard instead of a dog in his apartment house. You know.
It's so crazy.
Okay, we got to do another commercial, and then you
All
got
right.
to tell me. How have I not heard about a leopard?
All right. I will be right back.
Okay.
It's going to be fast because
Right.
I love having Vito on the show. Again, I'm at Villa Napoli, June 25th. The phone number 413-732-9300. That's 2 weeks away. It's going to be sold out. And then I'm again in Knoxville. I'll be there for 3 days. Fanboy Expo. Come by and say hello. And I'll know if you mention the show that you really listened.
That's right.
Let's
Gianni,
get back to my friend.
That's exactly right. Well, I love it, Vito. I love when Gianni has some friends come on because then I get to learn some other things that I don't already know. But it's always enlightening. I love to hear you guys talk about the past and how much fun and hell-raising you guys must have done. But tell me about the leopard that you had as a pet.
Oh, that was my pet. We had it up on the roof of the Dartmouth apartment house.
A real one?
No, I had a stuffed one. Of course, a real one.
Like a baby or a?
No, he got to be big. Believe me.
He took
60 pounds.
He took the closet, the bedroom closet with the sliding doors, took the doors off and made it like a cage.
How'd you remember that? Jesus.
I don't forget nothing. Believe me.
That was my best. No, people used to come in, girls used to come in and say, wow, that looks so real. I said, well, and after a couple of minutes, the cat will go, she says, is that real? I says, yeah, but the only thing is going to calm down, you got to take all your clothes off right now.
Of course you did.
He was a trained leopard.
He can't stand the smell of clothing.
Yeah, right.
Vito, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And give me some dates. I have to come and reciprocate.
All right. Well, like I said, as far as the TV show is, you could take any fourth Monday of the month, whatever's convenient for you.
All right.
As long as I have a month's notice, we'll do that. And I just a couple other things. Did you ever work the Villa Roma? Up in the Catskills. The Catskills.
No.
That's the Italian side of the mountains, the Villa Roma, and there's thousands of timeshares up there, and the hotels. We've done it 1,000 times, but that's a perfect room for you. I'm going to be doing it again. I'm going to put you in touch with the fella that books that thing, and you talk to him. I think that's a great room for you. And the audience is 99% Italians too.
Oh, I can smell the garlic and oil from the oil.
No, well, they got gabuzzel, They have they have an Italian night there.
They have gabuzzel on the menu.
They do
gabuzzel is lamb heads.
Yeah, right.
And they serve it, and they fight over the eyes.
Eyeballs. I remember that. I saw that. Was that in that movie known as the other day?
Oh.
I every time I think of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, known as the restaurant's right next to the St. George Theater here on Staten Island.
You know what's so funny though? I went to Nona's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were showing The Godfather, and I went over there.
Yeah.
And when I saw the movie the other night, they wish they had those tables. There's people outside now trying to. They got 6 tables in Nona's.
Absolutely.
Only 6 tables. 27 Hyatt Avenue. How do I remember that address?
No.
That's the address.
I always said, why did I miss The Godfather? Because it was here on Staten Island. I seen. I'm not that I wanted to speak in part, but there were so many friends of mine and so many different people. You could see them in the crowd. You could see them in the audience.
Oh yeah.
The band leader. All the guys.
Nino Morelli.
Yeah, from the beach.
If I knew you wanted to come on, forget about it.
Oh God! Well, I got that call for Goodfellas when I was in Goodfellas. Fortunately, I was in probably the most iconic scene of the movie. Go home and get your shine box scene. And that turned in. And then 30 years later, Scorsese brings me back to do The Irishman, and I played Vito in both of those movies because they couldn't remember what my name I was supposed to be. I said, so when you see the credits, it's Vito played by Vito. I feel like Lassie. I thought, you see Lassie played by Lassie. I said, no. I said, this is
That's funny. That's funny.
Hey, it sounds like people as popular as you don't need one name does it just fine.
Well, I'm not that popular. I know my place. There's always a big fish in a little pond routine. If I leave my circle, I could be John Doe. Nobody would even know, which is a good thing sometimes. You want to go someplace, or you want to eat, or you want to, you don't want to put on a pressed shirt. You don't have to worry about it. But
you're being too modest. You're recognized everywhere, my friend.
Nah. Hey.
And again, I thank you. Jeannie thanks you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Jeannie. Thank you. Hey, Jeannie, I love you, brother.
Love you, pal. Always. You know
Take
that.
care.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now. All right, Jeannie, we take 10 minutes.
All right. Vito, thank you so much. It's so fun to meet you.
Oh, my pleasure. Where are you? I see that the 801 area code. Where is that?
I'm in Utah.
She's in Utah. She stays far away from me.
Well, I don't blame her. She's afraid of leopards. There's a group out there, the Duprees, had a number of hits, and there's no originals left. Yeah, there's no originals left in the Duprees, but the guys that are singing are doing it now with that group for about 40 years or so. And they just hired a new guy. He just started. He's from Utah, and he's an actor. His name is Sean something, or I can't think of his last name now. But Sean he's got a series that just came out now for cable. But he's a Utah guy. He's a Mormon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
he's a Mormon.
He's a Mormon. Yeah.
Yeah. It's big Mormon country.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hello. All right. Well, great.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
No regrets, no complaints. Lived a life with no restraints.